Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story. President Trump has a tight schedule in Asia next week with stops in Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea. He will hold at least 3 summits, meeting with Japan's Prime Minister and South Korea's President and China's Xi Jinping. Beijing has yet to confirm the meeting between the two leaders.
But the first question I'm going to be asking him about is fentanyl. I'm putting it right at the front of the list.
Safety hazards hidden inside the steering wheel. Federal regulators launching an investigation into a Chinese airbag parts maker after it killed 6 people in the U.S. America's AI competition with China intensifying, how the U.S. and Japan are coming together to get ahead of China in this tech race. When AI researchers tried to learn what TikTok uses as green lights to promote content, they found the app is likely pushing New York City's mayoral candidate, Mamdani. President Trump said all trade talks with Canada were canceled after the Canadian province of Ontario published an advertisement in which Reagan was featured speaking negatively about tariffs. Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation said they misrepresented the address. President Trump, who leaves Washington on Friday night, is set for a 5-day trip spanning Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea. It's his first to the region and his longest journey abroad since taking office in January. The White House has already announced that Trump will meet with China's leader Xi Jinping during the APEC summit in South Korea. Beijing confirmed on Friday that Xi's scheduled in South Korea will be from October 30th to November 1st, without mentioning talks between Xi and Trump.
U.S. President Donald Trump will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping next week as part of a trip to Asia, the White House said on Thursday.
On Thursday morning local time, President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with President Xi of the People's Republic of China before departing to return home to Washington, D.C.
The confirmation comes after the meeting had been called into question following an escalation in trade tensions in recent weeks, after months of relative calm. After Beijing dramatically expanded curbs on exports of rare earth minerals, Trump imposed additional duties of 100% on China that are due to take effect on November 1st.
I think we'll make a deal.
However, Trump has in recent days expressed optimism about reaching a trade deal with China. He told reporters on Thursday he planned to cut to the chase on the issue of fentanyl.
But the first question I'm going to be asking him about is fentanyl. I'm putting it right at the front of the list.
Washington accuses Beijing of failing to curb the flow of precursor chemicals for fentanyl, a leading cause of U.S. overdose deaths. The White House used the flow of the chemicals from China as one justification for increasing tariffs on Chinese goods. Beijing has defended its record and accused Washington of using fentanyl to blackmail China. Leavitt said that on his Asia swing, Trump would depart from Malaysia on Friday and would then go on next week to make stops in Japan and South Korea, where he would meet with Xi on Thursday after addressing the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, CEO summit.
The U.S. is launching a new investigation into what it calls China's apparent failure to follow through on the Phase 1 trade deal signed back in 2020 in President Trump's first term. That probe could give Trump another tool to raise tariffs on China. The timing isn't random. It comes just a day before new U.S.-China talks in Malaysia over China's rare earth export controls on Saturday. In the Phase 1 deal, Beijing pledged to buy $200 billion in U.S. goods and services each year for at least 2 years. But China never hit those targets, blaming the pandemic. And FBI Director Kash Patel is scheduled to visit China next month as part of the agency's effort to target global suppliers of chemicals linked to fentanyl. This, according to multiple sources familiar with the plan. Turning now to the upcoming New York City mayoral election, and AI company's latest findings show the Chinese-owned TikTok seems to be promoting content related to one of the candidates, the far-left New York politician Zohran Mamdani. So how did they find out about it? The company analyzed millions of TikTok videos through a program built upon TikTok's leaked documents. NTD's Flora Hua has more.
The leaked documents exist on GitHub, where engineers share open source codes and programs. And these codes are part of TikTok's training materials for newly hired software engineers. The tech firm Spring AI built a computer model with these codes and wanted to test out how TikTok decides on which content to promote from the way people engage with it. The AI researchers had tested millions of videos with this model, and they noticed that some content was getting unexplained promotion. One type stood out: the videos supporting Mamdani, which man is described as socialist or even communist due to his extreme political views. Meanwhile, the researchers found videos backing the moderate Democratic candidate Andrew Cuomo were being quietly pushed to the sidelines. TikTok rejected the accusation, calling the study not based on any form of reality. This is not the first time the short video platform has faced criticism of political bias. Israeli officials have accused TikTok of routinely taking down their content. 2 years ago, several conservative TikTok content creators also experienced a similar situation. They said the platform had deleted much of their content or forced them to switch to new accounts. Last year, in congressional hearings, TikTok was accused of pushing Beijing's narratives on U.S. soil, including the cover-up of human rights abuses in Xinjiang or Tibet. CCP officials are also taking executive roles in TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. Now, the Trump administration is pushing China to divest TikTok to American companies. But Beijing has already classified TikTok's algorithm as its controlled export technology, which Americans cannot own, but only use it with China's license. This raises concerns of how the app could shape Americans' way of thinking, especially their political views. Flora Hua, NTD News.
An investigation aiming to protect U.S. passenger safety. Federal regulators launching an investigation into a Chinese manufacturer of airbag inflators Thursday. This comes after its airbag inflators exploded during car crashes and killed 6 people. Airbag inflators have chemicals that ignite during a crash to fill an airbag with gas. They are installed in cars to protect passengers during car crashes. The investigation marks authorities' crackdown on aftermarket airbag parts in the U.S. The Chinese manufacturer is called DTN Safety Technology, or DTN. The company's website says it doesn't do business in the U.S. and its products are banned from being sold in the U.S. Federal regulators said DTN inflators in the U.S. likely would have been illegally imported aftermarket equipment and that they were usually installed after the original airbag was used in a prior crash. The family of Destiny Biasi sued DTN last year. The 22-year-old mother of 2 in Florida died in a crash. The lawsuit said she was traveling at about 30 miles per hour when an airbag with a DTN inflator exploded like a grenade in a crash. Sharp metal sliced open her neck, and Biasi was unresponsive when emergency responders rushed to the scene. It's unclear how many DTN inflators are installed in cars in the U.S. Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi pledged on Friday to speed up the country's defense spending target by 2 years. She aims to reach 2% of GDP in the current fiscal year, well ahead of the original 2027 goal.
China is an important neighbor of Japan, and we must build a constructive and stable relationship. At the same time, it is a fact that security and economic security concerns exist between Japan and China. We will advance our strategic, mutually beneficial relationship through frank and repeated dialogue between our leaders.
First policy speech to Parliament, Takaichi said Japan must take the initiative to, quote, radically strengthen its defense capabilities. She emphasized that a strong economy is essential for sound fiscal policy and pledged proactive spending to support strategic priorities. She also promised to maintain market confidence while working towards sustainable public finances. She aims to accomplish this by reducing government debt relative to GDP.
The U.S. and Japan are set to sign a deal to boost cooperation on artificial intelligence and next-generation wireless technologies. This comes amid their concerns over China's rise in AI. The U.S. and Japan worry that developing countries would come to rely on China's AI technology, and they look to promote safer AI systems and get ahead of China in setting international standards. Japan's new prime minister will meet with President Trump on Tuesday. High-level officials from both sides are expected to sign a deal covering a range of technologies from AI, 6G wireless, medical and biotech supply chains, quantum technology to nuclear fusion. There will be specific steps on cooperation. Both countries would also cooperate on developing next-generation wireless technology and setting the standard. President Trump said on Thursday night that all trade talks with Canada were terminated. This came after the Canadian province of Ontario published an advertisement in which Reagan was featured speaking about tariffs. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's ready to pick up trade negotiations with the U.S. Watch.
Our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries.
Carney said Canada cannot control US trade policies, but can control how it builds at home. He said going forward, Canada will be focused on generational investment and developing new partnerships and opportunities with the economic giants of Asia. In a Truth Social post, Trump accused Canada of fraudulently using former President Ronald Reagan's speech in an ad against tariffs. Ontario Premier Doug Ford launched the campaign ad airing in the US, making the case against American tariffs on Canada. This comes before the Supreme Court is set to consider Trump's tariffs on November 5th.
The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation issued a statement saying the ad was made using selective audio and video and misrepresented the address. The 1987 speech by former U.S. President Ronald Reagan was a defense of free but fair trade, in which he explained his decision to put duties on Japanese goods in a trade dispute. Germany is canceling its foreign minister's trip to China. Johann Wadephul's trip was originally planned for Sunday. A spokesperson for the foreign ministry said on Friday that they are postponing the journey to an indefinite time, adding that the Chinese side was unable to confirm sufficient meetings, except for one with the Chinese foreign minister. On Thursday, Wadephul urged Beijing to relax export restrictions on rare earths and semiconductors. He emphasized fair trade as a cornerstone of successful relations during his planned visit to Beijing, which has now been canceled. Coming up, China is threatening Britain over a wind project delay. And here's the kicker: the factory is owned by a Chinese company. President Trump on the way to Asia with a meeting with Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping up ahead. This just after a key CCP meeting wrapped up. An expert sheds some light on the big picture. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The Chinese regime is threatening to pull in investment from the UK, all because of a delayed wind turbine factory in Scotland. The twist: the factory is being built by a Chinese company. Critics of the plan warn that the Chinese turbines would bring serious risks to the UK's national security. Here's more from NTD's international correspondent, Malcolm Hudson.
A Chinese firm tied to the Chinese Communist Party recently announced plans to build the UK's largest wind turbine manufacturing facility in Scotland. The plans have been met with warnings over threats to Britain's national security, but now China has threatened to cut investments in the UK, claiming political interference from the British government is delaying construction of the project. Infrastructure group Minyang Smart Energy wants to spend nearly $2 billion to build the facility. It would be the UK's largest for making turbines and would supply them for offshore wind farms in UK waters, many of which are located near vital subsea cables and communications links. Last week, Member of Parliament Greg Smith raised concerns about Chinese interference.
Our security services have warned us about the risks of Chinese state-sponsored hackers trying to infiltrate and destroy energy systems in the West. And hidden kill switches have been found in Chinese solar installation technology in the United States.
And last February, MP Andrew Bowie noted security vulnerabilities.
If Chinese manufactured turbines are installed, security experts have warned that sensors could spy on British seas, defence submarine programmes, and indeed the layout of our energy infrastructure. We would be reliant on Chinese equipment and software, Chinese suppliers for updates and maintenance, handing Beijing significant opportunity for interference.
Britain's Treasury has sought to encourage more Chinese investment in the UK. China's foreign ministry has accused Britain of politicisation in the name of national security, threatening to cut investment if it continues. The Scottish wind turbine project is not the first with Chinese ties to face controversy in Europe. Last August, an offshore wind farm project in Germany dropped a partnership with Mingyang, instead choosing the Spanish-German firm Siemens Gamesa to build its turbines. Germany's defense ministry had openly flagged cybersecurity concerns over the use of Chinese kit, and Europe's wind turbine industry warned the deal would give China access to critical infrastructure. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
A key CCP meeting wrapped up on Thursday in Beijing just ahead of President Trump's trip to Asia. President Trump is expected to meet with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping next week. That's as U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent held trade talks in Friday in Malaysia with their Chinese counterparts. To unpack all these developments and more, we spoke with Casey Fleming on Thursday. He's the chairman and CEO of Black Ops Partners Corporation. He's also a national security advisor specializing in unrestricted warfare. Casey, thank you so much for joining us. Now, with this focus on fentanyl and the strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug boats, President Trump today confirming that China is smuggling fentanyl through Venezuela to bypass U.S. port controls. First, is that connection surprising to you?
It's not surprising to me, but to the average public, it is surprising. But Venezuela has really built up the relationship with the CCP and vice versa over the past several years. CCP has really worked their way into the rest of the world while we've been asleep at the wheel, probably for the past 2 decades. So they've really gone after all that soft power, and not just the soft power, but also to unseat the United States as a global superpower. So it's no surprise to us in the intelligence community, and what Trump is doing and the Department of War is something that needs to happen. So it's putting the CCP on notice. It's also putting Venezuela on notice, as well as the other drug cartels that are pushing drugs on the American people.
And on that note, Casey, talk to us about how this fits into China's unrestricted warfare, especially drug warfare.
So the overall strategy of the Chinese Communist Party, and they are the puppet master to Russia, Iran, Pakistan, North Korea, and so on. And underneath Iran, you've got all the terrorist organizations. So it fits into basically weakening your enemy from within. So you never have to fire a shot. You never have to go to full military. So that is the ultimate goal. In fact, it's Sun Tzu in The Art of War says, win the war without fighting. So that's what they're doing. And fentanyl is, they say, hey, look, the British did it to us back in the 1850s with the opium wars, number 1 and number 2. So this is all fair game. And so, we're doing what they did to us. And so they justify it that way. But make no mistake, this is a war, and it's in capital bold letters with drug warfare. Unrestricted is the overall umbrella, drug warfare underneath it. But it's to weaken your enemy from within. And this drug warfare is very, very serious. In the intelligence community, we believe that number is well over 100,000 a year. That's almost double what we lost in the total lifetime of the Vietnam War every year. It's also losing like a Boeing 737 with 200 people in it every day. So it's a very efficient way to remove and destroy and kill military-aged young men and women. And yes, there are other collateral damage ages and people, but that's really who they're going after. So it is an effective weapon, and it's one of many dozens of weapons that are included under unrestricted warfare.
Absolutely devastating. And speaking of unrestricted warfare, China actually just wrapped up a key meeting known as the Fourth Plenum, where the party approved a draft of their next 5-year plan. Now, the main focus this time is shoring up China's self-reliance in science and technology, response to U.S. export threats. How do you see this impacting U.S.-China relations, or does it impact them?
I think our administration is finally waking up that we're being played by the Chinese Communist Party, by the Russians, by the North Koreans. They're all in an aggressive aggressor axis, if you will, again, against the free world, against the freedom, period. So it's something that's absolutely key. The CCP has been moving over the past 5 years to much more of a wartime footing, not just unrestricted war, but conventional wartime footing. And you actually saw them display their cards a few weeks ago in their answer with rare earth metals. So you actually saw them show their hand. They backed off of it, but that's exactly the way that they're thinking. So when the American people say, hey, look, I can't get enough of this Chinese light fixture or Chinese cars or car parts or investments in China or anything made in China, that's who you're doing business with. They keep showing their hands. Nobody's connecting the dots. And that's really who you're sponsoring, funding to declare war on you. They've already declared unrestricted war, which is everything short of conventional war. But you're also seeing them create this whole platform of a war footing to be self-contained, along with their other Axis aggressors against the rest of the free world. They also claim that they're pushing for a multipolar world. Make no mistake, the Chinese Communist Party, it's a bipolar world. It's communism versus freedom.
Now, Casey, the economy was also a big focus in this meeting. Tomorrow, actually, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer are meeting with their Chinese counterparts in Malaysia. What are you anticipating to come out of this meeting? Could we see a trade deal hammered out?
We hope that there's a trade deal. I mean, like I just said, the world is going, it's already gone. We're just late to waking up to the fact that it's a bipolar world. Choose communism or choose freedom. And so, like I said, we've been running kind of naked for the past 20 years. We have not been minding our allies and the rest of the world and shoring up this freedom type of universe that we like to have. We've kind of ignored it. We've kind of focused on other things internally and all other problems to keep us distracted while the CCP replaces the U.S. in all these partnerships, especially in the Indo-Pacific. So we hope that there's a deal that can be struck, a true alliance and partnership for decades with every one of these countries that say, you know what, we prefer freedom over totalitarianism and total control.
Well, Casey Fleming, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For On the Clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you soon.